Hello and welcome to those Endless Mysteries Live. Tonight we'll be discussing Bigfoot and some DNA that's been found by the Expedition Bigfoot show. I got an article I'd like to read for everyone, and we'll go over that. And then hopefully I'll have plenty of questions coming in that will. Hold on a minute, I got a sound problem here. Something kicked on. Let me cut it off. Okay. So let's start over. So I'm glad everybody was able to tune in tonight. We got only a few people here so far, but I'm hoping more will tune in. But I want to talk about the DNA that was found in this article. First, I want to read this article to everyone, and we'll go from there. And I'll maybe answer some questions, take some comments, some talk about some theories, and just different things. So now, in this article, it comes from March the 8th of 2021. The title of it was Surprise DNA Found During Bigfoot Investigation. It is written by Joycelyn LeBlanc. It's from the Mysterious Universe website, and they have some good articles on this site. I really enjoy reading some of them. Now, the story starts out a little over a year ago. I wrote an article about researchers from the television series Expedition Bigfoot who captured very interesting thermal video of what appeared to be a large ape-like bipedal creature walking around in the woods. More recent findings revealed compelling evidence with very surprising DNA results. During their time in the wilderness of Kentucky Appalachian highlands, the team collected eDNA, which stands for environmental DNA, from soil found beneath a large tree structure. After extensive analysis of the eDNA with software called metabar coding that matches the DNA sequence to thousands of known genomes, Miroslava Magula Ramos, who is the project manager at the UCLA California Environmental DNA Program, revealed the results. Yes, we have detected human DNA in these areas, but we're still seeing different primate DNA. Now, see, that's the key right there. There's different primate DNA being found. So, a lot of times it comes back unknown, but they're still finding primate DNA. Now, back to the story. There wasn't just one human primate, there are several different primates, some sort of primate relative that exists in the data. Ramos went on to explain Pantrolodites is a species of chimpanzee which you would not see in the areas you're at. It's a real head scratcher. It's important to note that the higher the detection, the more confidence we can say that whatever organism we're looking for was apparent in the area. And in this case, we're looking at the pan genus or the chimpanzee genus. There's 3,000 reeds. Interestingly, Pantrolodites live in the tropical forest of Central Africa. Primatologist and part of the Expedition Bigfoot team, Dr. Meyer Mayer, responded to the results, saying in part, the process of describing and confirming a new species is difficult. DNA is absolutely essential in the scientific community to prove that something is a new or recognized species. You have eyewitness accounts from tens of thousands of people who say they have encountered Bigfoot. Some coming forward with blurry videos and photographs, but that is just not going to cut it. What we need is indisputable genetic evidence to really put this mystery to rest. and there's no doubt in my mind that we are headed in the right direction. While this is incredibly exciting news, it still doesn't conclusively confirm that Bigfoot actually exists. Now, I have to say, Dr. Meyer is no joke in her field. I got another slide article, just a little bit of information on her background. In the article, it says Dr. Meyer Mayer, world renowned primatologist, Fulbright Scholar, and National Science Foundation Fellow. Mayer is not your typical scientist. For nearly 2 decades, she has been a wildlife correspondent, reporting on wildlife and habitat loss while advocating for situations to the alarming trends. Mao has been hailed as a female Indiana Jones in the media and is an inspiration to young women interested in science and exploration. A two-time Emmy Award nominated field correspondent for the National Geographic Channel, Mayer reports to audiences worldwide on permanent wildlife and habitat issues. Her explorations have led to several scientific discoveries, most notably her co-discovery of the world's smallest primate, a brand new species to science. Now, she's the daughter of Cuban immigrants. Meyer grew up in Miami and earned her bachelor's degree in anthropology and English at the University of Miami, and went on to earn her PhD from Stony Brook University. Now that just shows, she's got the credentials to back her up. So, yeah, I would love to have any thoughts about these articles from anyone and to understand what this article means. Now, it shows that there was several Bigfoot, um, well, not really can say Bigfoot, but different DNA found. Um, Human and chimpanzee was definitely found, but there was other primate DNA that was there that they just is pretty much unknown to them. They can only say that it is a relative of some species of primate. So I think that's very interesting to me anyway. And also another thing that I find super interesting is that they found chimpanzee DNA. Now, in the chimpanzee DNA being there in Kentucky, that's very interesting to me because Kentucky and Tennessee also has reports coming out of devil monkeys. Now, these reports are of 3 to 4 foot monkey type creatures that are very hairy, and so the so I find it very interesting that the DNA picked up something that could be related to the devil monkeys, that sightings that comes out of Kentucky, Tennessee, mountain areas. Um, so I've actually investigated a few of these sightings and talked to the witnesses, and they are very prominent on what they see. So it's always, but these chimpanzees, if it's the same creature as these devil monkeys, they've been sighted as far back as the very late 1800s. So maybe they've gotten blown over on ships and gotten loose some way and started breeding. So, I mean, could we have a form of chimpanzees actually breeding out in the wild in Kentucky, the mountain ranges there? I find it interesting because there is a lot of sightings that comes out of Kentucky about devil monkey sightings. Also, I find it for them to be chimpanzee in the description, they have longer hair. So are these chimpanzee type creatures? Maybe they're mutating and growing longer hair because it's always reported that they're much fuller around their head and shoulder area. So I find it interesting that they got a lot heavier coat on them than what a regular chimpanzee would have. So it would tell me for the harsher winters, maybe they've adapted to where they got some growing fur and maybe shedding it off through the summer months when it gets warm in that area. So yeah, so I'd like to see if there's anything coming in here and questions. And let me see, Mr. Ferguson. So what she is saying is Bigfoot has been captured. Well, not captured. There's just strange DNA showing up there that can't be explained. Um, there were several that showed up at primate DNA, but one of them was human, and the other one was definitely chimpanzee, which is strange in its own right. Um, so, but I do believe that that showing up in their results, chimpanzee DNA, could be why people sees what they call devil monkeys in that area. And what are the other ones that is still unknown, but are related to other large primates? Okay, let's go down. Bigfoot woman 65. Why do you think there is not more DNA found? Well, this environmental DNA is something new. It's just been coming out over the last, what, 10 years or so. And with them doing the DNA sampling now, they're finding more unconfirmed primates. They can't really explain um, exactly what they know. It's related to primates, but they don't have the genome mapped out, so they can't really tell you exactly what species it is because it's still really an unknown species. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, so I think that's what's going on there. They read the DNA, but they can't really tell you what species it's from. It's related to humans and other primates. They know that much, but they're not sure exactly what it is. But with them just picking up the chimpanzee right there in the mountains of eastern Kentucky was something that actually kind of blew my mind when I first read about it. Um, so I think it's very interesting, and especially with like several other Bigfoot DNA samples or other primate samples being found that they couldn't really match to anything else. I thought that was interesting as well. What is a devil monkey? Okay, now a devil monkey is where the chimpanzee is leading. For years, there's been reports of 3 and 4 foot monkey type creatures that are very aggressive and very fearful looking. Um, and a lot of people has had encounters with these creatures. And every now and then you get a report comes in, and uh, they're pretty interesting. I mean, it's all because it's not a Bigfoot type creature for sure. It looks like a monkey. People says they look more like a monkey. But I'm thinking since they found the DNA of a chimpanzee, that maybe these has moved over into the chimpanzees has became more like a very hairy monkey. Um, is the only thing that I can think there. And with the DNA being showing up there in eastern Kentucky, I think that would explain a lot of the devil monkey sightings there. I mean, from the late 1800s, there's been a few sightings that has came out here and there of these devil monkeys. It really got popular in the, I think, more sightings started happening in the 60s and 70s and on through. See, I investigated a sighting last year. I think it was in April, and I may do a video on that one as well of a young woman driving a car, and her car was pretty much attacked by this monkey type creature that was standing like 3.5, 4 foot tall. So these are some strange sightings that comes out every now and then. See, how do they get the DNA from them? Well, this new DNA from Kelly Phillips, this new DNA comes from them actually taking dirt samples from where they think, excuse me, from where they think these animals might be coming from or trails they're using. They'll take the DNA samples and run it up and try to figure out all the animals that's been using that path or around that area. And as they move over it, the DNA, just natural person walking through the area, is going to drop DNA. That's why they're finding human DNA along with these other creatures' DNAs. So I hope that answered a little bit of your questions there. And as far as the DNA goes, how they're finding it is this whole new environmental DNA is starting to turn to find more and more evidence of these. This is like the second or third story that I've heard where they're finding primate DNA, but it's not lining up with anything that's coming off as known. Basically, it's very related to known primates like humans, the great apes, even chimpanzees. So, well, I hope that was a good answer for you, and thank you for saying so, Kelly. Was DNA blood or what? No, it's environmental DNA. As you move from Parents of Zachary, as you move through the wilderness, you shed skin cells, hair cells, different cells of a known animal through that part. That's why when they do environmental DNA, they can tell all the wildlife that's passing through a certain area. They usually, they know the rabbits are there, they know the moose are there, or just whatever's in that area, they can pick up the bear, all the different stuff. So that's how eDNA works. Regular DNA comes from, they'll take blood work or something like that, or skin cells. But eDNA is a little different because every creature leaves something as they move through an area. It can be as little as just a single skin cell, and they can pick up on it now. They're getting very good at that. Okay, from Gene Moss. Is it possible there is a chimpanzee in the area? Well, I would say so with them picking up the DNA of chimpanzees. I would say that there are chimpanzees in that area. And like I said, these sightings of the devil monkeys, as they call them, comes from different areas, such as eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky. I have heard of some accounts around a very western part of North Carolina. I've heard some sightings around the mountainous regions right there in Pennsylvania as well. So there could be actually a chimpanzee population out there that's breeding out in the wild right here in the United States that may be changing and looking more like a monkey since it was uh, primate DNA found from chimpanzees. And let me make sure I get the name right for them. Troglodytes. Pan-troglodytes are their scientific name, is a type of chimpanzee that actually comes from Central Africa. So I hope that explains some stuff for you. So does anyone have any comments or anything on the sighting themselves? Um, Let me just wait here a little bit and see if anybody has any of their own opinions of what could be going on out there with them finding chimpanzee DNA, and see if anything comes in here. Let's see. Why do you think there is not more DNA found? Well, from what I understand, there are finding more and more of unknown primate out there. I'm not for sure uh, they know the species. They can't match it to any known species. So a lot of times it gets filed under unknown or not enough data to say what it is. Because if they don't have their genome on record, they can't say that, yeah, it's a Bigfoot. Uh, I think we're going to have to some way come up and hopefully a group maybe catch one or find a body somewhere if these things are out there, and becoming more aware that there might be something out there by all this DNA evidence that's been coming out lately is something that we kind of have to look into. Because if all this DNA is actually coming out about these creatures and they're finding that there is some kind of unknown primate out there, then I think we should be picking up and really getting more interested in how to get out and actually discover them, where they're at, where they're being, and find some way to sorry, I got something coming in here. Let me X that off here real quick. Yeah, I would like to know different things and see from Gene Moss. I think people may have a chimp for a pet. Oh, let me put my glasses back up. Illegally and let it loose. What do you think? Well, I think so. I mean, that's very possible that there's been people's pets turned loose, and maybe they found each other and they've just started breeding right there in the mountains of Kentucky. So I find that very interesting. Is it possible that they was in maybe a facility or something and somehow they escaped from there or were turned loose? And you had several males and several females that got out together and became a small pack. And over time, over the years, they've grown where more and more people are starting to see them nowadays. That's one of my thoughts about it anyway. Somehow there's been they've gotten released for them to be Central African primates or chimpanzees DNA to be found right there in Kentucky. Something's had to have happened where they've gotten out and they're actually, for as much it was found, they have to be a breeding population, I would think. To just take a eDNA sample and pop out chimpanzee DNA, I don't think there'd be many places where you could do that. Um, so yeah, I mean, is there any more opinions or questions? Looking here, I don't think I missed anything. Okay, maybe something will come in here in a minute. I'll just keep jabbering here. Um, and with a team member like Meyer Mayer on their team, I mean, I don't think this woman's going to go out on a wild goose chase. And with her saying that she really believes they're moving in the right direction to discover Bigfoot for sure. I mean, I believe to have someone with that much, what would you say, experience and putting her reputation on a line like that, I think she's noticed something going on for sure. Especially, this is the second season in that show, and the first season they caught some cool stuff, but this past season they really got some good stuff going on. Okay, government test subjects. Uh, oh, it's possible. I mean, a lot of chimpanzees and stuff like that are tested all with government. Some of them could escape off into Kentucky, into the woodlands, and that is one thing that could have happened for sure. Um, I just know they've had to escape from somewhere for them to be here. I don't think they came here naturally, and I think they're evolving to deal more with the harsh winters of Kentucky. It can get really cold up in the mountains, and I think they're actually might be mutating a little bit, growing or maybe shedding more like a dog or a cat or something, where they're growing their thick coats during the winter and shedding off in the summer times. That's why, like, maybe in the spring, a lot of people it's seen these things, especially in the spring. These devil monkeys. They talk about how kind of matted and uh, the patches of fur on it, just like you would maybe see like a dog shedding. You see them big patches were just barely hanging on. People has reported this in their devil monkey sightings as well. Okay, let me see. I got some more questions coming in. See, how can they tell if the DNA is from male or female? Well, that's hard to do. I'm not sure if they can actually do that. If they can tell if a subject is male or female by taking their DNA, I think they can narrow down the species very easily in the eDNA, but I don't think they can tell if it's male or female. I think that would have to be some other tests. Um, okay, another question coming in is from Angel. I think we are looking at different species. They all share one common genome thread, primate bloodlines, but there is definitely a separate, divergent species. From what they're saying that they found in the article in the show, I watched the show, and what the DNA, the eDNA that they did find, does seem to be a relative of the main primates, humans, great apes, chimpanzee. They seem to be more into that kind of related to. But as far as being unknown, now that with the chimpanzee DNA, they had over 3,000 reads on it, which I'm not a DNA expert, but I believe that is a good read. So they can guarantee that there was some kind of animal in the area that is related to the pan-troglodytes, which is just a scientific name for the chimpanzees. So yeah, I believe that is one of the things there that and divergence. I believe that they have separated from the normal primates, even though they're still showing some relative primate DNA. I think they've evolved enough where their DNA might be a little bit different. That's why when they come, when a lot of the testing comes back, a lot of the people, because it's completely unknown, just puts in a not enough data, or or just listed as an unknown species or subject, and they don't really get into as much as they should, because I think they should be trying to break down that genome that they are picking up and seeing what it is closely related to, because it could be more to the gorilla side, it could be more to the human side. It could be very much related to Gigantopithecus, who we know roamed this world for sure, probably around, at least had 100,000 years ago. Okay, another question. That's why there are different types of Sasquatch with different temperaments across different so many variables to consider: location, close mating pools, weather, food resources. I totally agree with all that. You got them probably bottlenecked in some areas. That's why some reports comes off, like down in Louisiana and Texas border. There's some reports coming off that they may only have 4 or 3 toes, and some of them are. That could be a mutation from a really close breeding pool. They could be not enough new genetic material being introduced into the group. So that would lead to deformities such as like having 4 or 3 toes. And then other areas, they got 4 toes. They probably getting smarter. They got a better breeding quality. And in different areas, there might be different uh, parts where they're each going their own ways also, far as evolving. Is it safe to have chimpanzees as pets? Tell you the truth, I know people have had them plenty of times for pets, but I would say no, because even though they look like a smaller creature, 3 to 4 foot tall, a smaller animal than a human, but if a chimpanzee gets mad, they have 2 to 3 times the strength of a human large male. So if you're a 6 foot male and that chimpanzee, if it ever really got mad, he's going to have 2 to 3 times your strength. And it's going to be hard for you to defend yourself against that animal. So I would say no, it's not really safe, because chimpanzees got their own moods just like people does. So if you catch them in a bad mood and get mad, yeah, they could really mess a person up. So I would say no. Let's see, I think they're more violent in Texas and Florida because of the location. Survival of the fittest with an apex sort of thing. Uh, yeah, there are more sightings that are said to be more out as what you say, aggressive. I think they're more aggressive, but really, I've heard some pretty aggressive stories that coming out as far north as in Ontario, Canada. Off in the wilderness there, all outside of Ontario. So, yeah, I think it depends on what kind of mood you catch them in. Basically, I mean, a lot of times they just gonna get and just probably walk off from you, leave the area, and not pay you no attention. I don't think they want to be seen. Now, in ancient Native American folklore, these creatures used to come into their villages and take children and stuff like that, and even said to eat them. So, what I think happened, the Indians stood up and they fought, and I think they did their damage there. With the bow and arrows, whatever. And I think they learned to fear man, because man, I mean, even though they wasn't very advanced in weaponry, we was still smarter in a way that we built bow and arrows. Say, for example, don't have to be close to shoot them with a bow and arrow, so that you could keep them at a distance. And I think they learned to fear man. And that's not just here in North America, that's all over the world. A lot of these creatures are seen all over the world. I mean, they got different names. I mean, even down in Australia, I think it's the Yeren, or and then you got all over Asia where they're spotted and seen as well. So, and I want to thank everybody for coming that has showed up tonight. If you cross-reference Native American Indian stories and Missing 411, you can see a pattern. a trajectory of which areas are more likely to have aggressive encounters, missing people, etc. Well, you can, because all these national forests where these people are going missing, there's also a lot of Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings that comes out of these areas. And I do believe, I've talked about this before. I do believe that these areas are somewhere that where you are going to possibly run into a creature, and it's very hard to say what the mentality of that creature is going to be. I mean, you hear about parents turning their backs only for a second, and an 8-year-old child is completely vanished, and they never find anything of them. It's very, um, let me see, how do I want to put it? Strange for these disappearances that does happen. I mean, they're right there, then just within a second, they're gone. And a lot of people can't understand what's happening there. But I see it as people running across a lot of these creatures. I mean, there is a ton of creatures said to be out there. Let me see. See, Angel. Yep, mood. They're like us for the most part. Canada is worse on the charts. Yeah, different charts show that a lot of people goes missing. And up there in Alaska, there's so many people that goes up in British Columbia, but especially Alaska and what they call the Alaska Triangle up there. There's a ton of people that goes missing. I mean, per capita up there, it's something ridiculous number. Um, I always say, they either got creatures out there in the woods that's taking these people off, or they got the most serial killers you'll ever meet up there in Alaska. The simple reason it's so many people. I know it's mostly wilderness, but there is just so many people that goes missing in the state of Alaska. See, from dark waters, there were reports of Bigfoot with spears from native folklore. Yeah, you can read it. I've read so much on this subject here. But they were still very primitive in their thought patterns. They were still wild. They would go out hunting and they would take deer and whatever. But mostly in the folklore, I don't really see much writing where they actually fought back. There's a few good stories out there, but I just believe that they did, and they really became fear of man today, and that's why they moved more off into these patches where people just don't go, and they try to live their lives. And every now and then, maybe for breeding reasons, maybe it's young male might be up there in say Pennsylvania area around the mountains there, and all males are taken up within his community. Maybe that's ones we see crossing the roads all the time. They're moving south or maybe moving up more up north, hoping to find a community where there's more females, or it could be females on the move looking for a male. Um, but I think that's why you see, and a lot of times you see just one or two traveling, throughout when they're crossing roads or something. Oh, excuse me. And that's one of the things I wonder in my own head anyway. Are they moving from place to place, maybe looking for a mate, to try to keep down the mutations like we're getting in Louisiana, Texas, right there in the panhandle, right there, that's causing these creatures to get 3 and 4 toes, becoming a little more deformed. Maybe they're trying to move backward and forwards, trying to keep that from happening in their areas and introduce more genetic material into the populations. Okay, Angel, they fear men but like to watch us. They relate because we are similar. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reports of them coming up to campsites where people believe they're being watched, interacting with us. So, but sometimes I wonder, could those be the ones that's moving from place to place, trying to just see, being interested? I mean, they've been maybe in a smaller community where it's just them, and when they get out from the community, their curiosity, as you'd say, is really piqued, and they see someone out uh, camping, and they close in, and they just want to watch and witness, what's going on. What is this person doing? Um, I mean, we may be just as, when they see us, we may just be just as strange to them as they are to us when we witness them. So, I mean, because it might be the first time they ever seen a human themselves, even though, there's a lot of humans, but in these pockets where they actually live, there's no human population. So they actually, when they are out moving from area to area and they see a human, they might be just as dumbfounded by us as we are them. They're sitting there like, well, that kind of looks like me, but wait a minute, that thing's hairless. You know, you know what I'm saying? It ain't got no hair. Why ain't it got no hair? Um, that's just, just something I've been thinking about doing another little, just a comedy sketch maybe of what a Bigfoot would think about witnessing us. So I may do a video or two on that just for fun and have some jokes and laughs with that going on. Um, they can sense barometric changes also. Think about that for a moment. Yeah, with the rainy areas, I would say. So, yeah, I think they could probably feel the storms coming from way off. I mean, they can feel the changes in the air. I mean, most people, even us as humans, most people out there could actually feel the changes before the storm gets there. Sometimes hours ahead of it, you can feel the wind picking up. You could feel, so there would be, I would say they could judge that weather's moving in. Okay. See, Dark Waters, y'all have a good night. You too, sir. And thanks for joining us for a little while. And I appreciate it. Okay, let's see if I got anything else that I've missed, maybe. So far, I think I'm caught up. So, anybody else have any opinions on the subject here that would like to discuss with me? I'd be feeling great to hear any opinions, any um, thoughts on any of this we've been discussing so far tonight. And I'll give it a few minutes for something to come in, or this discussion, we'll just call it a night. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. I mean, we ain't got many people in here. Okay, parents say, is Bigfoot smart too? Well, I would say he's got some intelligence to him for sure. Uh, but or but I don't think they're as smart as man. I think they fear man and they try to stay away from man for the most part as a group. But like I said, I think some of these younger ones that might be moving out, going from place to place, maybe looking for their own um, kind of home to say, because maybe it's like an anarchy, like in some of the ape and chimpanzee family groups. You got a male that usually leads the group, and then if a younger male thinks he can challenge the older male, maybe he challenges, and maybe the older male has to leave that area, or the younger one, just like with gorillas and chimpanzee, has to leave the area, and they have to move off and go and start somewhere else. So that is that's something to think about. I think that these younger Bigfoot, or sometimes it might be the older ones, that has to leave out because they've been taken over by the younger ones. Um, let's see. Do you think some footprints are faked? Well, I would say so, but a lot of them you can tell when some are faked or not. So the fake ones usually get rooted out pretty quick. But I do believe a lot of these footprints are real that people finds, and when they cast them, a lot of them gets taken to Dr. Jeff Meldrum in Iowa, if I'm not mistaken, and he's got a very huge collection, and that's his field, studying the feet and locomotion of humans and great apes and different animals. So he's learned to know how to rule out a fake footprint or not. And these big footprints, a lot of them has certain ridge lines and stuff like that that only comes from primates. So that was a good question there, and I appreciate that. Bigfoot Woman 65. See, Jackson Ferguson, that was a fun night. Thank you, sir. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope I've shared as much as I can with everyone. And I appreciate everyone that did join in and ask the questions, and I love to hear your opinions. I mean, I want more and more conversations, and hopefully we'll help it grow and more people be coming in, and we can get these even going even longer and talking and everything. So I hope everyone has had a great time tonight. Uh, okay, I got it. Okay, but I think that's all I see. So I think I'm gonna call that a night. And I really appreciate everyone coming in and joining us tonight. So until Tuesday night, when I'll be back live at 8 p.m., I want to hope everybody has a great week and enjoys themselves and has a great weekend. And please, hopefully, everybody will be back Tuesday and we can come up with another discussion on some animal and or creature out there, and see if we can get some chats going and have a good time. So I'm glad everyone joined me, and I want to appreciate and thank everybody for coming tonight. And I'll see you soon. Thank you.